This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, just another voice in the wilderness. Um, I think we need really to understand that without um, a class analysis, we really do. I mean, I think we always miss um, in our understanding of how our societies, economies, political systems, culture, narratives, and everything else. Because there is this reality of class, but the point is very misleading to believe that we have these the oligarchs or the 1% of the population, which is the upper class, and the oligarchs and the plutocrats, and then it's the rest of us. That analysis is misleading too. Um, what is important that we become conscious, and again, this means that when we look, what is the reality of being conscious of something. When we are conscious of something, it means that we understand it. We understand how it works. We understand what it is and why. What's the purpose of it? And then when we have an analysis of the reality of an event, of a political whatever it is, you can use those lenses in order to understand it. So this is exactly the point, because we, in our societies, since long ago, there are differences, and today we live in a more fluid society where things not necessarily we see the boundaries. The boundaries are blurred. Um, out of there are the social conventions are not as rigid as they were before in other cases, and therefore we seem more all alike. We know there are differences, the cars we drive, the neighborhoods where we live, all the social events that we frequent, all these things. There are many differences, but at first glance it's very confusing, because you look at somebody and you don't know immediately. It could be a billionaire that you or could be just a middle class person. You don't necessarily by what the person. It might in some cases you can identify people because the kind of brands they wear, and again the car they drive, or whatever. You might immediately see, okay, this is a wealthy person or this is a poor person. But in most cases we do not really we don't have an idea of this. And this fluidity, this blurriness, obfuscates class. It's not a question of class. You have working class, middle class, blue collar, working class, white collar, working class. And by working class, I mean people that live on their salaries, or they need their salaries to live. whether just to survive or to thrive, which is a lot of difference. The problem is that we have many divisions and subdivisions, classes and subclasses, groups and subgroups, and castes in some cases, in some places in the world, and subcastes. And they can be professional, they can be cultural, they can be racial. I mean, they can have many different. Of course, it has always to do with the economic and the political, the economic function, the political role. You know, it has always to do with which position, how relevant is for the power structure the role you play in society. Are you easily replaceable? Are you, I mean, you know, there is many questions to ask. And the working class, I mean, I always, you know, you have the public sector, the private sector. The public sector has always enjoyed, and still is even today, enjoys certain privileges that the private sector, I mean, it was, for example, in a country like Portugal, was a huge gap between the rights and the privileges of the public sector, and I mean, at the bottom, the public sector could earn less money than in the private sector, okay, as a salary, but the benefits and the pension money and everything else would be better. They would be covered by a health system better. I mean, everything would be better. So these privileges and these differences, these entitlements are not, they are done by design. Because they want people, they want us to fight for our acquired rights. That instead we wanting a society where everybody has equal rights. And by equal rights, what do I mean with that? I mean that, for example, a public health system and the education public system, everybody has the right for the same quality of education. Of course, this in practical terms, there is always better places in. I mean, this because it cannot be exactly okay. The program, the pedagogic paradigm and everything, they can apply the same, but of course there will be differences. But the access, you know, even today in Portugal, in the public health system, if I have a problem and it is it requires that I have a surgery and my local hospital cannot perform it, or they think it's better to be that the operation should be performed by a more qualified team, or in a central hospital or something. It would be done like that even today. So which means that we all, in spite of our origins, in spite of our professional our role in society, our function when it comes to education, to the basic needs like food, shelter, quality of air, and everything else. We must. There is a necessity that we all are, that we all live in the same country. That's one way to put it. Okay, uh, because when we create a system based in divisions and subdivisions, class and subclasses, all the rest that goes with it, we start to think tribalistically, in groups, in group interest, in sector interests. I work for this sector. I work for this. So therefore, I want as more rights as possible, in spite of the other ones don't have them. And then what is the excuse that is used very often? The excuse is that is not by denying myself or my group or my class or my subclass that those rights or those privileges or entitlements that others cannot have, that the world becomes a better place. It is the opposite. Because if we set the standards higher, they might trickle down, which is not it's a fair argument. It's really a fair argument. But in the other end, what we are doing is that we are not we don't know what's going to happen, and if and we are willing to fight for our rights instead and our privileges instead, because we feel entitled to them. Okay, then to think that we should unite with others, groups, subgroups, classes and subclasses, to fight for a fair and balanced distribution of the wealth and power, which means what is distribution of wealth? It's not stealing each other's wealth. It's exactly having a society that is not based in exploitation. The point is, when people talk about inequality, and the ones that believe that inequality must exist because of meritocracy, because if I have more, it's because I worked harder, or I have spent my youth studying harder, and I have sacrifices this and that, and so on and so forth. Which again, this is not necessarily bad argumentation or unfair argumentation. But then we use these arguments, okay, to justify exploitation, to not really care about other people's rights because they belong to another class, they belong to another subclass, another group or subgroup, and I have not. And since I don't expect to become I look up, I don't look down, okay? So, because that's what most of us do, we look up And when it comes to fear, and that's the problem again, that's when the fear comes that we might lose our privileges, not because of those that are below us in a class system, but because of those above that are scheming the wealth, that are destroying the real economy, like like they are doing these days in the West, at least. Then you become again you know instead of thinking that okay, I should join forces with this larger society, that we are the victims of exploitation. I am also a victim. I'm also part of a system that if there are policies in place that are destroying the welfare system, that are destroying the public infrastructure, the public services, by privatizing them and making them for profit, which means that from now on, the ones that have the money can pay for it. That's what happened in America with the health system. You know, it's and if you can, it is possible that we always can say, okay, this is how it is. I have money because I deserve it. It's part of the meritocratic system. If I have the money, and I made it following the law, following the rules, I deserve it. And those who are not able, it's because they are lesser than me. Okay, they belong to individually, they are lesser than me, but also as a group, can be a ethnic group, a racial group, can be an economic group, a subgroup, a subclass. Because then you see people individually, but you then also associate them in groups. You make these associations that they belong to this group or that group, and you start to identify the group through the observation of specific individuals that sometimes don't really necessarily represent the group. They might represent or not. They can be used as a role model for the group or not. And this is used to justify the social injustice, exploitation, accumulation of wealth without limits, concentration of power, the control of the institutions, even those institutions that we consider that are the basic pillars of democracy and should be separated. Have the separation of powers, legislative, executive, and judicial. Does it really exist in practice? So if it doesn't exist, why is it? Why there is a law for people with little money, and there is a law for people with a lot of money? So my point is, divisions and subdivisions always create division and more division. Because of this problem of social and political comparison, we compare each other, we believe we deserve better or more, and therefore we think it's normal that we feel entitled to what? I mean, even when we are literally depriving others, I mean, I don't mean directly, okay? I don't mean that we do it directly, but it can happen also. So we know and we understand that our overconsumption or our possession of land, I mean, when we become, if I own 1,000 or 10,000 hectares of land, and there is a population of, there is some, there is a point when I necessarily need to deprive other people to have access to something because I control too much of resources. It's the encirclement of the commons. Is the manufacture scarcity process that I have that legal control and moral legitimacy to do it, that I'm depriving others of accessing, sometimes, not unfortunately very often, of the means to survive. I'm depriving, not because they don't exist. That's what happened with food. That's what happened with the health system, the healthcare system, or education, or other forms of, or housing and everything else. We have the housing, but we don't want, because we think it's unfair to use a house that belongs to someone but is empty, to use it to house people that need a house. And we think it's right to exploit people with high rents when people don't earn enough to pay them, and at the same time pay for the rest of the bills, energy bills, food, whatever it's needed in a daily basis to survive. But we are convinced that again, what is the idea behind this? We have this company called Blackstone, which I think it's the top landlord in America. I don't know how many. I don't know how many houses they control and whatever it is. And we compare, and then we see that we always think about like this in our societies. There are many sorts of landlords. Okay, there are landlords that inherited the buildings, the houses, the flats, apartments, and so therefore they belong to them, and therefore they can do whatever they want, and they can ask for as much as the market affords. Okay, so this is one possibility of becoming a landlord. Another way to become a landlord, you work hard, you save, you have an eye for business, and you buy when the price is good or whatever you do. You just bought a few flats, or whatever it is, or a few houses, or a single house, or whatever it is, and then you don't need it, or you bought it with the purpose of of uh, uh, putting it in the renting market. Um, so you are also part of the landlord class. Okay, so when normal people, working people, think about why should why should people that are not housed, if probably they might have a drug problem, or they might have a divorce, or they might have made bad choices, poor choices, so therefore they are in situations that is their own responsibility. Why should they have access to a house uh, for a fair pay? I mean, for a low rate, when the other guy, the owner of the apartment or the house, have worked hard to buy it. Seems unfair. Seems unjust that one that has worked hard to have something doesn't profit out of it, and while somebody else that eventually have failed, or have made poor choices, or whatever it is, or has an addiction problem, or whatever it is, or went through a divorce, should have a house, paying little for it, or even nothing for it, um, and at the expenses of the other one that is the lawful owner of that piece of property. It's fair. These arguments are fair, but the problem is these arguments. Who are the forces in society? For again, this is why I'm talking about classes and subclasses and groups and subgroups. So there is in the landlord's world, there is BlackRock, and there are other people, and then you go down, you go down, you go down. But then you have to ask, why? Where does it come from? Why is the rent so high? Why is the market? Why can so many people work, or even have several jobs, and do not have enough money to pay these high rents, and that they have to live in their cars, or they have to live with their parents, or they have to whatever it is? Why is that? Where is the fairness of somebody? I mean, forget about poor choices. Not everybody can have a PhD, or become a doctor, or whatever it is. Society doesn't work like that. Society doesn't need us all to be doctors, or to be teachers, or to be lawyers, or whatever it is. We need all kinds of people for all kinds of functions and roles, and we are all needed, and we are all equals as citizens, as human beings. If we end up in a island, and we don't have anything with us, just our bodies, no tools, nothing, who are going the ones more important with the skills? I mean, the ones that are smart are important. They are all important because they might have been able to solve problems, to help solving problems. But the ones that have been working with their hands, with their bare hands, for example, picking fruits, doing this, collecting wood, doing whatever it is, might be more helpful and more important than the other ones, than a lawyer. What do we need a lawyer? You need to cooperate if you want to survive in that kind of situation. You don't need litigation. And if you have a problem, you can solve it. It's humanly possible to solve problems if we have goodwill. That's a problem of goodwill. That's a problem of that we understand that we live in a community and we need to protect the community, and we need to have solidarity and reciprocity, and we need to that sufficiency, which means that we need to provide for all of us and to divide our whatever it is that we need to share the rights, and to share the responsibilities and the duties. So the thing is that where does it come from? Where does the prices of the rents and housing, is it natural? What is, why does it have speculation? Why do we have so much speculation? Why don't we have, in so many countries, wealthy countries, social housing programs that work? Why should everything be dictated by the market? Why should we believe that the market, which is about exploitation, don't forget, the market is not about perfect competition, and that is BS, okay? Market don't work without regulation, without laws, without state intervention, without subsidies, without grants, without state-funded research and development, okay? Without state infrastructure, without many things that have to do with the collective wealth. So why don't we have, why should we have a system that if you put everything in the market, we are going to have lots of people, 10, 20, 50% of people that are deprived of the means to live a decent and dignifying life. And even can be even more than 50%. And why? Because the market is not about efficiency. It is about price gouging, protecting proprietary rights. It is about cartelism. It's about monopoly. It's not about the distribution of wealth. It's not about trickle down. It's trickle up economics, not trickle down. That's what's the market. It's not. I'm talking specifically not about the market economy. I'm talking about the capitalist free market economy, neoliberal. It is not even about markets. It's about financial markets dictating to the rest of the economy what is right and what is wrong, who gets the wealth and who gets thrown under the bus. Okay, And if we are stupid enough to buy that this is freedom, this is what is freedom is about, we are the losers. And then we just think in this kind of group and subgroup, and then we never get together because we think that we can do better if we defend our group or subgroup until they don't need you anymore. That's the point of the system where we live. Even for the groups that believe they are important, they have they have a role, an important role or an important function to play. Okay, so they believe that they will be always the powerful, the 0.1% will always protect them. No, that's not how this system works. In this system, anything and everything, anybody and everybody is a useful idiot. It's cannon fodder, and it's an expendable peon, which means that when the time is ripe, you, your class, your subclass that thought they were part of that shielded, it was a shielded class, okay, part of a small circle, protected circle, will realize that if you are not needed anymore, you are just like me. You can be dumped. You are an expendable peon. That's how it works. That's why this mentality that we have, that we look, the people that work in the public sector, it's not like that anymore as it used to be. But that feeling of entitlement, that feeling of superiority, of working for this specific, because by enjoying privileges, and others, and that's the point. When you enjoy certain privileges that have the system as for whatever reason, okay, and that's the point. What is the reason why the elites, why does that specific society gave certain rights or privileges to specific groups and not to others? What is the reason why? What is the role they play that makes them more valuable for the system, to preserve the system? And then again, we have to go to cui bono. Of course, if I have an organization, I will reward. If I have a company, or if I have whatever it is, I will reward the ones I believe do by being the ones that do the beating for me, the ones that defend my interests, or they are able to impose my laws and my rules while I'm trying to exploiting somebody else or a resource, or take or whatever I do for profit. Those that are helping me, I am willing to reward them accordingly, not to make them surpass me, but to use, by rewarding them, I'm using them, I'm making them accomplices of me for as long as they are useful, okay? For as long as they are useful. That's why we see in so many organizations and in these powerful, even among the powerful, when one of them becomes a burden, which means even when somebody becomes a burden, a menace, for whatever reason, knows too much, whatever it is the reason, they get rid of him, of her. Okay? They suppress, they can kill, they can simulate a suicide. I mean, there is many ways that they can just disappear. Okay? That's how it works. And this is exactly how the system works. While making us believe that this, this system, the pyramid scheme, with so many steps, and we might be in a lower step, and we might believe that we are in a higher step, because the perception we have about the role of the function we play doesn't necessarily reflect any kind of political agency or distribution of power of wealth that I enjoy. Okay? In real terms. But in my perception, and that's what matters in group thinking, individual thinking or group thinking, is about perception manipulation. It's about me perceiving myself or my group as deserving whatever we have, but sometimes we don't even know where do we really, what is our real position in the pyramid scheme. Okay, so this is always about manipulation, about deception, about being used to keep the top of the pyramid, to preserve the top of the pyramid. You need to preserve the pyramid to sustain the top of the pyramid. Okay, the top of the pyramid needs to be sustained by the rest of the structure. That's why they care about it. They keep all these divisions and subdivisions and classes and subclasses, that we fight each other. We don't have this perception that we could dismantle the pyramid scheme and build a different reality that would be far more, that would be better, far better for most of us, the vast majority of us, than the existing pyramid scheme as it is, because you have to sustain all the pyramid. The top of the pyramid is sustained by the rest of the pyramid. But we are, the perception management, the delusion, the deception, is that we see it the opposite way. We see it through the lenses that the pyramid is organized from top down, which is true, because they do organize, they do dictate the rules, the policies. They are the designers, or at least you have the top, and then you have a certain portion where are the designers, the ones what we call professional managerial class that is responsible to write the laws, you know, do the engineering, do all the things that have to do with the design of the system, to 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 make the structure, to give what the structure needs to design what the structure needs to keep the top there where it is, and to keep all what is all the all that is all the wealth that is produced by the all layers of that pyramid concentrated in the top. And so there is really they really are. We think we need them to organize the pyramid, but what they do is to convince us. They convince us that we need them because they are superior. They are the ones that they are there because they are smarter, because they have worked hard. They have made sacrifices. They are entrepreneurs. It's not because among these people there are smart people. There are, people with quality. The problem is not that. The problem that the ones that really control that the pyramid are the ones that lack the basic social traits that make us humans. That empathy, compassion, the cooperation, the need to cooperate and reciprocate, solidarity. They don't care about justice or trust or truth. They don't care about it. They want to create a system that the law is used, as a justification to rule the system through contracts. Okay, do we need a social contract? Yes, we do. We need rules and regulations. We need to understand where do we stand. Why should we do this and do that? I like order too. Okay, that's not the point. We need order. We need to know what we need to have boundaries, and all of that. You know what I mean. That's not the point. They want that order and those contracts because they replace it they create a fairy tale of fairness. They justify exploitation, unlimited accumulation of wealth, the privatization of everything, the proprietary rights, and everything. They make sure that they convince the rest of us at every single step of the ladder, step and sub-step and understep, and all these divisions and subdivisions, classes and subclasses, they are what they are, always based in merit. Okay? That's why when we feel entitled and we feel superior, and we believe and we don't care if our entitlement and our privileges are used to deprive other people and animals and earth and other species and everything else of the right to live, of the right to their own existence, because our feeling of entitlement, of supremacy, of superiority, shields us against having any sense of justice, and that we don't see the relation. We block because we don't understand that our wealth or our position or whatever it is that is with us is in a relation with the rest of the things, that as social beings we could not exist. We don't exist in a vacuum. And this, to me, I see it everywhere. That's why we don't have, when a sector of our socioeconomic system, let me frame it in another way. When there is an injustice, that injustice should be felt by all of us. And the reason why it's important to feel like that, it's because we should always have the perspective that today it's you, tomorrow is me. I scratch your back, and then you scratch my back. This is reciprocity. And why this is important? Because this has been a basic principle, a basic trait of the survival of our species. Okay, and when the complex societies and the rise of class and caste, how to organize society based on class and caste, that reciprocity was suppressed. Was not suppressed, was tribalized, was groupalized, okay? Was made into this the interests of the family, the interests of the individual, the interests of the corporation, the interests of a specific class or subclass are more important than the well-being of the rest. Okay? And this myopia mentality has transformed us into what we are today. And that affects all of us, affects how we perceive ourselves as individuals, but also as part of groups. Like this division is everywhere. That's why we have this it's not only it is the, I mean, it is normal that we have these tribal tendencies, okay, because we build these identities, we evolve as small groups, and then we have we build we develop a language, a cultural system, a sociocultural system, and an identity that is built by that specific group, like the interaction, the relations of the specific group and the environment. So that's why we need a different mentality for a larger group, because if this continues the way, because the problem of this class and subclass is that it always protects, that's again, by doing it, we spend our energy keeping the pyramid scheme just to sustain the top. And all the divisions and subdivisions, these groups and subgroups and classes and subclasses, play a role against the vast majority of us. And we perceive it as thinner, as if there is no alternative but this pyramid scheme that all of us, through these divisions and subdivisions, waste our lives by using our creative energies, our skills, to concentrate it in activities, playing roles, having functions, just to keep the pyramid scheme, just to keep the top together, because that's the function of the rest of the pyramid. But again, that's why this is all these divisions and all these different steps and all these differences in the level of merit, the reward and punish system, and this entitlement, the prejudices, the perception of entitlement, the perception that we deserve our privilege, all this plays a huge role in keeping this order as it is, and obfuscating the ability that our intellectual, our analytical ability to see through it, to use other lenses, to understand that we don't need this pyramid scheme, as we don't need any pyramid scheme, and we don't need the scam of the meritocratic scam, not because merit is wrong or because we don't need to have some sort of evaluation system, or you don't need to. I mean, that is not what I'm trying to say, that everything is here. No, we need always some sort of a scrutiny, as we always need some sort of accountability. Scrutiny, accountability, well, that's true, but that's true merit, not a mythical system that its only purpose is that we all work, well, keep us all divided, divisions and subdivisions, to that we then make sure that through different levels of subjugation, of corruption, and what is I don't have the word right now, that keeps us doing the beating for them, and that's why and then we each one of us try to keep our rights, our privileges of our small group, of our niche, or whatever it is. And then we don't have a comprehensive analysis of the reality, and we don't develop an alternative, a comprehensive project, an alternative project for the society that is not based in this pyramid scheme. That this pyramid scheme is older than capitalism. Okay, this pyramid scheme is basically all the imperialistic civilizational paradigm, which is older than capitalism, is based on this pyramid scheme. And it's always the same problem. It has been always. Those that lack for whatever reason, innate or acquired, that lack the capacity to feel empathy and compassion, that do not want to cooperate, that they which means that they don't want to reciprocate. They don't want to. They don't care about solidarity. What they do is they have these sociopathic traits or psychopathic traits, are narcissistic and megalomaniacal, and then they want to eternalize their they want to create something to eternalize them. This grandiose personality. And these people, they don't care what kind of suffering they will cause to the rest of us. And they have been the ones that, because as I said it many times, they have advantage over us because they can use, they are able, since they can create this accomplice, by transforming people into accomplices of them, by rewarding them, they create this pyramid scheme, this accomplice, this complicity. They can control by giving privileges and playing with these privileges and entitlement, by paying more to this one, and by bribing. It is a bribing system, and then they just keep the rest of us being divided and fighting and competing with each other, and trying to survive, and I mean doing whatever. I mean, what everybody, most of us have to do, and to keep the top of the system stable, or at least to keep it to keep the order, that to exploit us, exploit our minds, exploit our feelings, exploit us at all levels of what means to be human. They transform how we perceive what a human being is. And then this becomes a system. That's the problem. That's why it's not easy to see through, because we are raised with lenses, with boundaries, and we get a pair of glasses that we have to go to see. We only see the right colors, which are the wrong colors. Okay, that we are supposed to perceive these objectives in life. We study, we get a degree, we get a good job, or we build our business, and we do this and do that, and we don't care about the bigger analysis, the systemic analysis, to understand the processes and the relations. Because we see things through a tunnel vision. And I have my thing, you have your thing, and then that's how we see reality, and we punch each other, we fight each other for which best idea about reality, like the blind and the elephant, and that's exactly, and that's why if we do not break away from this spell, I don't know what can we do, because this is the understanding of class, but it's also beyond the understanding of only class war. We need to understand class war. We need to understand what class-based society is, how class-based society works, and how it matters. But we have to build this comprehensive understanding, because we need, I mean, we need a completely different civilizational paradigm. It's not only about creating a socialistic society, in my opinion. It's really a paradigm shift in what a civilization, what means to be, what is a civilization, what is the purpose of civilization, what is the purpose of everything, arts, culture, I mean, these questions need to be asked, and we need to understand why they need to be asked. Not only I can say we need to have this. No, we need to understand why. Why? How have we arrived to this, to where we are now? Why and how? And how should? What can we do to change it? And why we should change it? Because it's really a comprehensive and a way that I understand. I really truly believe that we have been dehumanized, and we need to recover our humanity. And this is nothing to do with religion. It's not to recover. It's not mysticism. It's not any form. It's by understanding what really is a human being as a socio-cultural organism with this ability to develop, to create symbolic language systems, and have this incredible creative imagination that is a double-edged sword. Okay, it is a double-edged sword, and we need to understand it. If we want to have a humanized society, because what we have is not, it might be sophisticated, we might believe in technofixism, and we might get many confusions, and we might even believe that what we need is to be transhumanized, to be merged with technology, and to get chips in our brain, and what, I mean, and I just, no. I'm not against using the use of technology. I'm not against technology. I'm not against science. But first and foremost, we need to be humans. Science and technology are tools. You know? Even if they are sophisticated tools, it's like arts. You know? Everything is a tool, and it should be used to humanize us. It's not just the purpose of being more sophisticated or cosmopolitan, being cosmopolitan, you know, having this, no. It's to make us understand that we are part of the web of life, that is humanity, and to have a culture that is part of the web of nature. Why should we want to be above nature, or to dominate nature and dominate all the forms of life, and create these systems that we try to dominate each other, and try to justify it? That's the nature of our condition to behave like that. This is a big lie. And the ones that need to understand it is those, you know, is most of the pyramid we are all working just to keep this top functioning, and the top that controls us, while telling us that we need them, because otherwise that would be chaos, that we could not work together, that we could not have we cannot have a different society. This is it. That's the end of history. While they keep creating, they keep progressing in terms of having more control over us, to make the pyramid scheme harder to challenge, the paradigm harder to challenge, by creating all the, they keep doing what they want to do while we are spectators, consumers, stupefied, imbecilized, atomized, tribalized, and fanaticized around the wrong things, the wrong issues. Again, division, subdivision, class, subclass, groups, subgroups, whatever. I mean, we need to go through it individually, but we also need to get together. That's what is missing. It's not, we don't, this is reproduced, what I'm saying now is reproduced in social media, groups, subgroups, divisions, subdivisions, this and that. We just do it, the social media, the internet, which is a wonderful thing. I've learned a lot. I have many connections and many people that I was able, the work of many people that I have able to, it was the internet that made it possible to me to know them, to know their existence. Some of that, the ones that are alive, still alive, and other ones, some that have passed away. So it's wonderful, but at the same time, the internet, the social media, and is just reproducing the same patterns, and we do not seem to understand. I mean, some of us do understand it. We keep do the beating for them. Disorganized, divided in groups, in tribes, in this, in that, following certain, again, this paradigm of authorities and leaders and saviors and whatever it is, and heroes and celebrity cult, stars, pop stars, sports stars, actors. It's all the same shit. It is all part of the same shit that this creates a paradigm. This creates patterns of thinking, patterns of perception. This shapes how we feel reality, how we think about reality, how we think and perceive ourselves, and how we relate to each other and with nature and animals and everything else. Always through these divisions and subdivisions, but again, in the end, we are always doing the beating, using our creative energies and using everything else that helps to keep the pyramid. Okay? Instead of using our creative imagination and our critical and analytical skills to dismantle the pyramid scheme. And that's what we need. We need to do our homework. We need to go through a comprehensive, a conscious transformation that is conceptual, that is how we perceive us as human beings, and all the rest. I don't know what else to say. You know, it is simple and it is complex. Once you understand it, it becomes clear. That's true. But in order to get there, we need to really. It is a walk. It is a mental walk. It is a psycho-cognitive affective walk. Because there is this dominant paradigm, these dominant narratives that control our minds, you know, from within at the subconscious level. And we have to use our conscious mind, the ability to think consciously, to analyze things at the conscious level, to go through it and to make them to create a different to have a different conceptual, to create a different conceptual and a different mindset in order to perceive reality, to perceive ourselves in a different way, and to understand the reality where we live in what I think is a more accurate perception, a perception that is always flawed. That's why we need each other to help each other to see the flaw, to see our flaw, to say, oh, I missed that point. I need, yeah, that's what we are. Imperfect beings. We are flawed. That's right. That's good. We are not gods. We don't need gods, honestly, to be fair. We just need to be humans and understand what it means to be a human being, which means that we are not superior. We do not foment a culture, any form of culture that justifies, that justifies that we feel entitled, that we think that is fair, that we have prejudice, that we have privileges while we have prejudices, that is for sure. All of us. That we deprive others and deprive animals and deprive a tree or whatever it is, because everything is about fulfilling our rights and our entitlement and our whims. Are we alive as human beings just to create and psychopaths and sociopaths? Is it the epitome of humanity? That's what we are here to do, to achieve. That's the examples that we see in celebrity culture. Mindless consumerism and all the rest, the spectacle that our societies has become. I mean, I think we could do better, and we could enjoy life, because there is so much to enjoy about life, in spite of all the suffering and the pain and the mortality and our mortality. That is a lot that can be achieved through other means, through becoming more human. Because everybody knows the feelings, the wholeness, the beauty, the experience, the moral experience, the psychological experience when we are gentle to a child, to an animal, to a person, to a tree, you feel it in your body and in your mind, that the experience that you are doing the right thing, and you are doing the right thing, and it flushes you with just nice feelings in your own self, that you feel that you are being a human being by doing that. And we need to build that, and that can be done and we still can have nice things and have joy and and have fun, but not necessarily through the accumulation of stuff that we don't need, the stuff we buy with the money we don't have to impress people that we don't even like. Yeah, that is a distortion of what a human being is. But we can become anything. We can be transformed in any tool. The problem is that we think we are making choices when we are being manipulated to do the beating for those that are above us, and especially for those that are on the top of the pyramid, that they want us. That's what they want from us. They don't want anything else. When they don't need us, they just get rid of us, they ignore us, or they kill us, or whatever. This is the reality, okay? And we need to see it and understand it in a comprehensive way, not just intellectually, otherwise there is no transformation. The conscious transformation doesn't necessarily happen just because you understand something at the intellectual level. That is important to understand. You need to have an intentional use our will to have a conscious to go through a conscious transformative process that is that you can do, but you need to do it. You cannot outsource it. Okay? But we can help each other together. That's why we need groups. We need unity. We need organization. And that's what we don't have because of many reasons. All right. I'm going to end it here. Thank you for listening. I will be back soon.